nice enough to see a week or so, and then we can figure out the money.
This is the next.
That's the next one. Yeah. We got time.
Okay, I was like,
Welcome to being on the policy committee.
all right, I thought you two were driving it the whole time.
Oh, what? Oh, no, there was only a couple that we were like, I want to see these, and then like, here's
I was like,
wait, go through all these.
Sorry, it's been a long day.
But some of those were.
I'll send it.
It's so long.
Okay.
It's not.
It's not in the policy.
Yeah.
I gotcha. That makes sense. Yeah. Yep, that's fine.
Should be done before snow.
Yeah,
I mean, now it's.
right. Well, I still have more to do, but you're never done with stuff, but I'm done with what I need to get done.
There you go.
Yeah.
I feel comfortable.
Yeah,
You got two pictures of deer on there, over there, 2 of these in a row.
there you go.
Nice one.
Years. Can't tell.
I was gonna call you and tell you I was over there working ground and I chased them that direction, but
Over here.
yeah, it was already dark, and so it was like, yeah, it doesn't matter, probably ain't gonna be there for, yeah,
Cameras are outside, but it's what, how they're getting in and out of it.
right,
That was gonna be a warning this weekend.
right. Well, that's why I figured you'd been out there this last weekend,
I was
so,
out this weekend.
okay.
Saw a couple does, nothing that.
We asked when before we start.
Wasn't that what you got, was doe tag?
No, I got.
Any deer, oh,
Yeah, any deer.
sure,
With my.
yeah.
My question was, what happened to the door that we had to repair? Can I ask now?
Which show?
I don't know, high school door repair, 15 grand.
Well, there's
Those are
seven.
all the keys.
Seven.
Okay, maybe go from Mark.
They were, all the doors
We
were.
rekeyed all the keys. Half of them went locked. So kind of on the verge of security.
Upgrading security anyway? Okay.
Yeah, half of
Yeah,
them locked, or some
in
of
the
them,
works.
some of them were twisted.
Yeah. I was just like, dang, what
Some
happened
of
to
them
the
wouldn't
good one?
lock from the inside. You had to.
Shimmy, shimmy, shake.
So we just decided to do this whole thing and just get them all, do it all done. Yeah, don't do a single door.
We're like, did what happened?
I just was like, whoa.
It's actually kind of been a thing for the last, like at the beginning of the year, every year, it's something the teachers bring up, and after this year, just say, let's just.
We need.
Well, I had asked you for those quotes and you got them for me.
Yeah, that's all.
That's not that far off.
No, those are doable.
Yeah. So I was like,
Actually got another company giving us a bid for 4 kids.
I started listening to that podcast.
Oh, you did already?
Yeah, it's actually quite interesting. I'm only halfway through. I'll send it to you. It's very interesting.
Were there any changes to this from the digital version?
Changes from what?
To the board packet from the digital version?
Nope. Shouldn't be, not on purpose anyway. You see?
No, I just always.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes you have a few small.
Yeah, no, it should be all, it should be. Are we rolling? Yes. Okay.
All right, welcome everybody. It is now 7 o'clock. We'll call our meeting to order. If you could join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on our agenda is approval of minutes of meetings held both October 13th, 2025 and November 3rd, 2025.
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second. We have a first and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, item number 4, persons wishing to address the school board. Seeing none, we will move forward. Item number 5, approval of agenda. Are there any changes for our agenda?
Yeah, we would like to add, under executive session, letter B, or excuse me, I guess just right after personnel, we'd like to add negotiations as well. So that'd be 1-25-2, excuse me, -4, 125-4.
Okay. All right, with those amended changes to our agenda, do we have a motion to approve our agenda for tonight's meeting?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
First Matt, second Karen. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Do we have any new conflict of interest disclosures?
We do not.
Okay. All right, next item on our agenda is the consent agenda, monthly claims, financial report, and authorizations or ratifications. Any questions or feedback from the board this evening?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
First Matt, second Angie. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, old business, roof, HVAC.
Okay, so we had our walkthrough scheduled last Monday, a week ago today. I made a mistake, I should have went up there Friday during professional development day, I never got up there. Had I gone up there, we would have probably never had that meeting on Monday. We went up to the walkthrough and it just wasn't completed yet. My assumption that it was gonna be completed, but it was, some of the tin wasn't completed yet. There was stuff all over the roof still needed to be cleaned. They did have the inspector and the gentleman from Tremco. Their understanding was the same, that we were walking through for inspection and warranty. So he was gonna call his people. I emailed Carrie right away and she said, yeah, they had something come up where they had to leave. They're gonna try to get it done by the end of this week. And I said, well, that's fine. I mean, I just, ironically I said, but you just never know when the snow's gonna fly. And then of course the snow flies. So she wasn't really concerned about them getting here or worried about the cold getting it done. I just said, just let me know when it's done. I don't think it's anything crazy like I just think it's the way it works. These things are usually delayed at the end because people get pulled off jobs to finish other jobs, and I don't think it's whether there's a consequence or we'd have a hard time getting any type of penalties anyway. I don't think it's a Tremco problem at all. If anything, it's a Blackhawk deal. And I just think they got tied up on other jobs. So I'm confident they'll get it done in the next week or two. John, have you heard anything from her since then? One thing she said, she wanted to keep that appointment so that they could come look at other areas to assess what our needs are moving forward. So I know that they did that as well during that time here. So they assured me, the inspector assured me that he'd be back and they'd do it thorough. And he was, run the scraper along all the seams, and he said they have a machine that'll check all those welds and the rubber welds or whatever. So I'm confident that they'll come and do a thorough job when it's done, but they have to do a warranty here. So anyway, not done yet. So that's where we're at.
And you said like 1 or 2 days on site to finish, correct?
That's what she said. Yeah.
Okay.
And they haven't added anything to the bill?
No, as a matter of fact, I think we have somewhere in the round of 55,000 left to pay, and we just told them we're not gonna pay that out until we get a walkthrough and a punch list. Once we punch list and walk through and it's all done and cleaned up, then we'll pay the end of it. So, but no, they have not added anything additional. We haven't seen the final bill yet either, so.
Are they gonna give you like a report of any other findings then in the walkthrough that they just did for future stuff? Like, will they give you a write-up of? what
Yeah,
they've
they'll
seen and
put
when-
together, you mean for the future, like things to work on, yeah.
Yeah, just curious. how-
Yep, they'll put a report together and say, hey, this should be done in the next 3 years, this should be done in the next 7 years, this should be done in the next 10 years. So,
So on that note, I wasn't here for the first few minutes of the last meeting. I don't know if Carrie was here and presented, but, are they again gonna provide us with, in the original presentation, they sort of provided us with estimates for preventative maintenance costs
yep,
in the meantime?
that's,
They're gonna get us something.
they're putting that together, yep, I think that's what those guys are here to do.
And their numbers look like they are in essence the same. They went up 5%, but
As far as the.
that presentation that they
Yeah,
handed out
yeah.
last time compared to the first one.
Yep, yep,
So,
and they'll put something like that together again for us.
Okay.
Let us know what our next steps are, when we want to budget for it, when do we want to do it. There might be a few things here or there that we need to repair ahead of time. I mean, we have some water coming in a couple of rooms that we need to take a look at. It won't now because it's gonna freeze. Well, maybe it will. It's supposed to get to be 60 this weekend, so. So we might have some of those things that we just need to repair for the time being, but we'll see what they send back to us. We have to look at those spots too.
sure.
There's a seam over there, and then there's a skylight over there, right? Over here, right here. Oh, yeah, the arm over here. So, once they get those to us, we can make decisions on where we want to go from there.
Any other questions about roof HVAC? All right. Completing old business, move on to number 9, new business. Strategic planning is item 9A. So from the strategic planning committee, I didn't know if there was any feedback, otherwise I had a question about how to proceed tonight with that discussion.
I don't really have anything to add other than, prepared to talk, I guess, about priorities per the email from last week, but I don't have anything to add beyond that.
Okay. So I guess the only thing I was just gonna say, when it comes to our strategic planning, we've had, many months of discussion, deliberation. We had our open forums that were guided by us earlier this year, then we had our own guided thing here last week. And now we're down to the final strategic plan, which we want to try to get approved by December so that we can enact it in January. So, what do you, just update what you're passing?
It's just what we've kind of been operating on. I didn't know if you guys brought copies of that. It's just coming. We had copies left over from the minutes. Just in case you want to write on or scratch on or whatever.
Okay. So I guess what I was gonna say was there's 2 parts to what we have in front of us. We can decide how much we want to try to get done this evening. But the 2 parts that I see, the first is the mission, vision, values, that piece, and the second is all of the different pieces of the action plan, the 4 steps that are there, right? So I'm gonna skip the mission, vision, values for a second and kind of focus on the action plan, only because I want to kind of provide, my idea would be for the board to discuss. There's a lot here, we take feedback, but what I was thinking was we have been doing this for the better part of 12 to 18 months. And I think both myself and then I think all of the, families that are part of our school district are ready to see some action. So I just wanted to try to find a way that we could take off manageable flights, get those things done, and then keep moving, right? So instead of trying to take all of it and boil the whole ocean at once, maybe we take, I'm thinking maybe 2 items from each subsection, talk about what those could be, and kind of make a priority list. So So that would be what, 8 items out of all of this that we would focus on, get those done. Then as we move forward into the next year, let's say we get those first 8 items done in March. Well, then let's pick the next 4, 5, 6, whatever. Just that we were taking manageable chunks. I think this group can handle things like that. If I think we go beyond that, I think we find struggle a little bit. So that's my recommendation on the action plans for academics, professional development, public relations, and facility enhancement. So kind of putting that out there for the group to discuss, thoughts, concerns, questions, comments, work.
I guess my only addition to that from my chair is that the last board meeting when we discussed this, the group seemed pretty adamant about not having specific metrics inside the mission or vision statement itself. And it was sort of deferred then in conversation to this part. So if that's the route we want to go, then it needs to be part of the discussion. Good Ed Consulting provided us with a metrics line that's pretty gray there. But we need to tie these things to actual deliverables.
But I also agree with what Jason is saying, that we need to make sure that those timelines kind of are tied into that we can make sure that we're setting standards for ourselves on what our goals are as far as how soon we want to achieve some of these things. But I agree with you in that we do have to take it bit by bit. So we need to find the things that, what can we implement right away that's cost effective or that's doable or whatever, and then just.
This is just the extra that came from, I was gonna print this out earlier, just the extra notes that came from this focus group meeting, that were on the stickies.
I agree with both of those things.
So I guess the question is, if those 2 pieces are agreeable, are we prepared to determine what those 2 items are for each of the subcategories at this meeting? Have that discussion, or what is the group feeling like? Because if we're gonna have that discussion, we should move into it, or do we want to have firm, like December's it, and we're gonna hash out everything at that singular meeting?
I think we should start sooner the better, in my opinion.
Okay.
The only thing, sorry.
Honestly, the way I think we need to look at it is like, what is, maybe the way to pick it apart is what's gonna be the easiest to get done the fastest, and then move to the things that are gonna be harder to get completed. And prioritize it that way. Because some things might be very easy to implement, and something they've already started, I guess, the administrative team, but we can maybe get some updates on a few things. I think input on what seems to be obtainable or accomplishable the fastest, and then, otherwise, we need to start moving forward, I guess, is where I'm going with that. Making decisions and moving.
Yeah, I like what you just said. Maybe if I could amend it just a little bit then, instead of, as you describe it, instead of 2 things per, maybe we talk about 3 things per something that we believe is on the cusp or already in action, something that's an intermediate goal, and something that may take longer. That puts your points up to 12, but at the risk of sounding glib, it sort of sounds like some of those are going to be gimmies, more or less, right? Which is fine, because the admin team started rolling on this from day 1, so they've been in action. And that should be lauded from us. If we're gonna received a publication, it's, I guess, wasting a little bit of time if we have something that's really already checked off just for our own gratification. If that makes sense.
The only thing I was gonna mention is if we're picking, the priorities and whatnot, if we're taking into account any of the stuff that was added from the meeting. So when we're choosing that, are we just choosing off of the previous list, or are we incorporating what was brought into from the last meeting?
If we didn't take into account what we heard from our group a week ago, I think we did ourselves a disservice. So I think everything's on the table for discussion.
Agreed,
That's what I was just wanting to make sure that we were.
absolutely.
Yeah.
The whole purpose of having the meeting last week was to get input from community members, and I think there was valuable feedback given, and I think there are actionable things in there that we can look at or tie into what we already have or whatever, but yes, certainly we need to be looking at both of those things.
If you don't care what order we go in, I'm willing to start at facilities, because I have kind of a wild goose as far as facilities goes, in the sense that it wasn't on the original consulting piece, but it sort of came out of our last meeting. And that is that I think that our first thing to do in the facilities is that we need a comprehensive facilities census, conducted by the facilities director under the supervision of the superintendent, and then brought up to us. I don't know what that timeline looks like, but if we're going to consider any of these things, we need to consider certain pieces of the whole puzzle. What is the 3 to X year maintenance plan? The Trenico plan goes out to 10 years. So is that our time horizon for right now? That's something we've talked about in the past. Do we have space for what we currently do? I think the answer is yes, but I don't know. Is there something that we're doing or trying to do already that we don't have space for? Would be the opposite question. Do we have space for some of the things that we want to do that were identified during the EFG? That could be, in my notes, I call these little wants. Something that, we could modify existing space at a relatively low cost to complete X. The next piece is how do we compare with other schools in the conference, if that's relevant to us, for competitive facilities. And then finally, big wants, whatever those might be, exploring that at some point in the future. But I think, at least I'm speaking for myself now, I'm not probably as aware of the space in our facilities as perhaps I should be. I have a general idea that when it comes to classrooms, we have plenty of space, but for example, facts and CTE have come up several times during various discussions. If we wanted to start up a home ec course in the curriculum and add it in the near future here, is there a space that would work? That's just an example of what I mean by like a little want, right? And has there been discussion, in admin or faculty about things that we're currently doing which we maybe don't have the right facility for, space for, whatever else. So that's what I mean by census. So that was not on any of these documents, but it's sort of my takeaway from a lot of the discussion in the two focus groups is that nobody's really sure where we're at. So I don't know what everybody's thoughts are as to that. And that's an easy metric to measure. We either have the data or we don't. I don't know how long it would take to complete. That would be a discussion for Dr. DeVore and his team.
Yeah, I mean, certainly I think from a facilities standpoint, that's probably the first thing that we need to do is gather that data. What are the needs, the wants, that we're looking for? I think you need to look at Del Rapids as a community based off of like population, what type of facilities are in other communities of similar size, with different amenities and those types of things, and what would you do with it? I think we need to put together an evaluation so we have a good idea of what we're looking for, but then I think the next step from there would be, can we engage the architect to give us a couple of options, like this is what you could do with the existing facilities that you have, and this would be the cost projection in doing a remodeling type of a situation, to accommodate all of those things that you're looking to do. Or if we're building something, this is your estimated cost projection for what you're looking for. Because we need to, I feel like we need to kind of have an idea so that we can say, okay, wait, that was way more than we were expecting. We gotta make some cuts or whatever. We have to be able to reasonably plan, or, you know, what have you. But until you can start seeing it and tying numbers to it and stuff, I think the first step is, yes, gathering the data. Let's figure that out first, and then let's get some things, I guess, put together so we have something visible to look at and have an idea of cost projections, and then maybe you can tie like timelines to what's realistic to it, or what are some outside the box ways to try to raise some funds to cover some of the costs, and pay for some of it without having to look at doing 100% of it on a bond or something, because we know that's probably never gonna fly, or, you know, what have you, so.
Happy?
And then like step one on the DEC document is, you know, to begin the conversation with the community at large for any potential joint use facility or whatever. I think that could happen concurrently. It doesn't really require any additional work for the most part, other than conversations with folks at St. Mary's and with the city. Because with that particular conversation, the first hurdle is the biggest hurdle. Because if anybody says forget it, we've kind of more or less established that it's a team effort, or it's probably not going to happen. So
I will say, I feel like that's kind of like the future facilities goals and stuff, but I do think we need to address the security issue in our current facilities and to make that a priority. You know, as far as like, I did ask Dr. DeVore to get some cost estimates on getting like security locks and that kind of thing, and implementing some sort of a security system so that we have better measures in place than what we currently have. And I know that that's a concern within the community, at least that's been brought forth. We had parents here, family here, it was brought up in the external focus group. I think that needs to be at the top of the list of things that we probably can do within reason, relatively quickly, and for a cost, in my opinion, that would probably be worth it. So I do think that should be the first priority before we kind of take this step.
So the conversation that just happened is one of the concerns I have. We jumped from talking about the next few months to talking about either A, things that we've already been talking about for 18 months, or things that are way far off. So based on what I'm hearing, what I'm also reading from our facilities review last week, here's the two items I would propose. And I'm gonna ask for a timeline, and Mr. Silvernagle, you're our facilities director, correct? Correct. So I ask for your feedback on this. So security, one item, the full facility review. So those are the two items that need to be reviewed, because This isn't the third thing, but it's a fact. We just got done talking about the roof and what those potential needs are gonna be. So we're gonna have that report hopefully within a month, maybe 2 at most. Is that a fair assumption?
I think so.
Okay. So then if we have Mr. Silvernail as the facilities director, do a security review and with you, Dr. DeBoer, and a facilities review, and have that back to us by what would be more achievable, the February meeting or March?
I think we could have it done by February.
Okay.
February, March, April gets just busy with budget negotiations, all that stuff at that point in time. But I think we could have, it just kind of depends on, when we're looking at facilities review, are we looking at, do you want, and we have some of this documentation, we just have to look through some of our old stuff. But like, do you want lifetime, like how long do we have for life in boilers, in hot water heaters, in current HVAC units? Obviously the roof piece will be done. The facility piece is pretty easy. We have maps and we have, they had facts here at one point in time, so we know that there was facts somewhere. That stuff, vacant rooms, we could list, and that stuff we could get together pretty quickly. Finding the life cycles of some of the bigger dollar amount equipments, that might take a little time if we don't have it. I guess I'm wide open to do it. I think it's a great idea to evaluate what you have first before you start saying this is what we're going to do or what can we do. Just need a little direction on what that would entail. Are we talking things over $100,000?
That's the standard, right? Like your discretionary point is 100,000, right?
Yeah, but by law, I can spend $100,000 without you guys telling me to. But I would.
I mean, I would be, and if you want, Jared, right, we're facilities this year, I think. We could delineate this portion of it in a committee meeting or something between us if you wanted to. But I'm comfortable with that sort of idea, like when it comes to batch maintenance, if it exceeds $100,000 or whatever. I don't want to put you guys through the rigmarole of having to, report every Thursday.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking, and I don't think you guys mean this at all, but I don't know that I want to have to do reports on every computer and every textbook and every chair and every desk and every,
No, and I definitely don't want it. From my perspective, I don't want to have to deal with that. But an example of where that diverges would be like, say, for example, computers. Because we batch those out in 3-year cycles, and those batch numbers far exceed $100,000. So that becomes, in my opinion, a capital outlay budget item at our level.
I just think it's a good goal. If we put a deadline of March, then we'll work our tails off to get to that deadline. But I think that's exactly what the strategic plan should be about, is accomplishing those tasks, and then you can move on to the next one. If facilities goals are, let's do a maintenance review, get those totals, let's do a facility plant review, let's do a security review and give suggestions on, what it would take to enhance our security with dollars. Those might be the 3 goals right there, and that might get us to May, and then we reset in the summertime.
Well, and for security, I know that's been talked about. What I would like to see is what should be done and what they're talking about being done, as far as buzz in, buzz out. I mean, yeah, whatever, that makes people feel good, but that doesn't change, that doesn't move the needle. I mean, talking about putting crash pads in, bulletproof glass, the whole works. What's that number? Because that number is completely different than buzz in, buzz out. Yeah. That really just makes people feel good. It doesn't change anything, in my opinion.
And we have some contacts that they could come in and do a whole kind of security review and give you the nuts and bolts of what they think needs to be addressed.
I think that's important, because obviously what we end up doing, ultimately, we want to make sure it is valuable and that's gonna work. I mean, otherwise you're just wasting your dollars. And so I do think, yes, absolutely, in my opinion, that needs to be one of our.
And we can pick and choose from there, and you can say as a board, like, hey, we're willing to do A, C, and F.
Yeah. But if we have an idea of, here's what's recommended, and this is the value you would get out of it or whatever, but then, yeah, like I said, then we can make the decisions when we can see what the plans would have to look like and the dollars that would have to be tied to that we would have to designate.
I could see, I mean, I think we could get that stuff done by March.
Okay,
It would be Kim and myself and John for the most part.
okay, so what were the three you said? Security?
Well, what I wrote down here that through the discussions was just evaluate current maintenance and facility, like equipment, bigger level equipment. I think, you know, you and I have talked about this before, but we're talking like HVAC and boilers and hot water heaters and that kind of stuff, like where we're at.
Mhm.
And then I have, just evaluate facility space, meaning current vacant classrooms or where can we put X, Y, Z? And then evaluate our security concerns and get a plan for that.
Okay.
And those are just really, I think those are the first steps before you can start making facility decisions. Or really staffing decisions for that matter, if you don't have some of those answers. And I think we can do it by March. We can't do it, I mean, we can't do it.
Right.
But I think we could get it done by a goal of March, and if we get it done earlier, then
Okay,
get it done earlier. We might be at the mercy of John's controls on some things, or
sure.
depending on police department, if they're the ones that come and do it right now, or whatever.
So for facilities, a review of the security, the maintenance and facility items, that would be 100,000 plus, and an eval of facility spaces overall, due date of our March board meeting.
Sure.
Is the group all in favor of that?
Just one caveat to item one, since they're probably gonna get rolling on it pretty quick, I imagine. And it sounds like security is number one on your agenda. Do we want to give them the direction that it should be some sort of objective review from the outside? You said you knew of somebody or something, and I know that the state offers a grant for review. So there's probably some money that we can get that way.
I think we can get like the sheriff's department to come in and do it for nothing.
Okay.
With our link with Deputy Walton, and the state has some other options that could come and do it too.
Right.
For nothing as well. So we can explore that.
I just think if that's important to us as a group, we should give that direction now, because if he's got to get it all done by March, then he's got to coordinate with that outside element.
Truth be told, we're kind of in the middle of all that already, so we've got some quotes coming and we've got them working on that, so.
Okay.
But I would imagine that these three, I think we can do these by March.
Okay,
I'm comfortable.
so all three due by March or reported earlier if completed. Okay. Right, those are our three for facilities. Okay. Does anybody on the board have a preference of which other section to go to? All right, we'll start back at academics then. I guess I'll start the conversation here. One of the items that I heard, I thought repetitively, was that, and it's in yellow, so it'd be something that we could attempt to take on, was the district will consider engaging local businesses to participate in CTE programming to enhance class offerings. I don't know that it necessarily needs to be focused on CTE, but I know last week the people at the table I was at spoke very highly of programs they grew up with where they got to go into the community and work and learn. And I believe there's some of that going on. Maybe it's just not well publicized, but I'd like to try to find a way to make that more robust and have a more of a backbone to it. This would be something I would recommend for the group for one of our academic goals.
Yeah, I concur with what Jared just said. CTE and facts were mentioned numerous times. You could probably condense 4 or 5 of those bullet points into kind of CTE or whatever. I know the Dr. Board has been working with the Economic Development Corporation on a kind of hybrid, what do you want to call it, job fair kind of thing that's happening next month, so making good progress that way. That was number 2 on my list, so I concur with that kind of idea.
I do have a question as to whether or not you guys are comfortable adding fine arts to the, like, academics plus fine arts in the goal area, so that we are addressing both. I know that came up in the external focus group, that it was a concern that we don't even have that mentioned.
Say that
in
again,
any of this,
that adding fine arts into the academics piece.
into the goal area, like academics and fine arts, because that wasn't even like included in any of this, I guess.
I'm gonna sort of agree with you in the sense that I believe it belongs in the mission and vision statement, which I've been holding to that. I think it's that important. Rather than burying it, so to speak, we shouldn't bury the lead. I think arts and et cetera should be added.
Okay, so if you were to put it in as a goal area, academics and arts, what would the goal be underneath it?
One of the things that had come up, I guess as a concern, was just resources or lack thereof. Potentially getting like we need to look at potentially hiring like maybe a part-time band teacher to help the current staff that we have, because it's really difficult. It sounds like, from what I'm being told, managing middle school and high school all together, and then trying to do, they don't get individual lessons, it's group lessons now, just like things that have to be maneuvered to make things work, which then I think does impact the overall, quality of the program somewhat, because you're overextending somebody potentially. So, whether or not, if we look at, if we could start with part-time, that would probably take a decent load for now off of the current staff that we have, but that was one of the things that had come up.
So then what is our action step in that?
Potentially hiring a part-time teacher, looking to put dollars towards that.
So my question is, in the middle of the fiscal year, can we adjust the budget to do that?
That I don't know,
So that's, in my mind, that's not
probably not, I don't know.
that would, to me, that's more of like a 6-month thing where when we're doing our budget this spring, when we're getting ready in June. I don't disagree with what your focus is. I'm just saying, we want to start doing action steps in January. What can we attack at that time?
Yeah.
So if that's what you want to do in June, then the action step would be to evaluate through this metric what the current, whatever you're wanting to look at. There needs to be an action step. You're telling me what you want to do. You're not telling me how to get there. And that's what I think everybody who's watching today is trying to figure out. What are we going to do to get this stuff done? So it's 1 to 2 things that we can do in the next 2 or 3 months to move this stuff forward.
So I don't know if it's feasible, but an option for a stopgap before, we can do budget and whatnot, look at next year, Is there an opportunity to see if there are some high schoolers that may be able to assist with lessons with like fifth and sixth grade? Where it would take a little bit off of Timberley's load, give some assistance, and would also give some of those experienced high school seniors maybe an internship-ish type situation. I don't know, it's just a thought that popped in my head. And that would be a more immediate step that is actionable. I don't know.
I don't think, like, realistically, what we've talked about so far and the things on the list go into effect until the next fiscal year. To what Jared said, I think any of our action steps, if we want them immediately actionable, are going to be some sort of review process. If that's what we want to accomplish, then the first thing is to get, the superintendent to meet with his team and find out what that deficit is. And then, then he can do an analysis backwards into what that means. Half-time, part-time, additional, whatever, or that option. I like that option. Whatever that is, but that's after we figure out what it is we need. If the end state is to improve the quality of the band instruction, as I understand it from you.
Yeah, I guess.
So again, is it the quality or the volume? Because if it's quality, you're questioning the teacher
Well,
that's
I
there. If
think
it's volume,
one affects the other for sure.
okay. So, well, the discussion so far is based on story. What we don't know is the fact. How much time are the students getting? Is the current teacher overwhelmed? We don't know those things.
Well, I think that goes to his point, is like maybe we need to ask for an evaluation on that and get a timeline set to it. That would be an actionable, easy
That would be
step.
an actionable item, yes.
I think we have to be, I'm just gonna give my 2 cents here opinion when it comes to the academic side. When it comes to overall goal setting for academics, I believe what we're trying to do is determine what are course offerings we can offer our students that we're not offering them? What are things that we have that we can enhance? What are areas that we need to grow in? Like, I read that and I see a lot of that, like review our offerings and budget limitations. Administration serving middle school, high school concerning additional classes they would like. Consider engaging local businesses to participate in additional CTE classes. I would caution us to put in there anything specific like academic and art or academic and band. Academics encompasses the whole thing. If we as a board determine that band's the direction we want to go when we're looking at adding academic offerings and budget, then that's the direction we go. Because we can't add them all. So we have to make decisions. Do you want a CTE health cluster teacher? Do we want an additional band teacher? Do we want to offer ag in middle school? Those are the questions I think we have to answer after we evaluate, because we can't add them all. So I would just caution some being, we're not going to say academics and science or academics and welding. To me, that'd be the same thing as saying academics and band.
The other thing too, I appreciate you want some action steps that can be moved on immediately, but at the board level of leadership, we have to be comfortable with some longer time horizons. Because anything that we do, we don't do a whole lot. Anything that we say, they have to do. So no matter what, the time horizons are probably always going to be longer than make us comfortable.
But in Andrew's point, I do think that we can, as an admin team, evaluate our current programming our current classes we're offering, what those numbers look like, and report that back to you all so that you can help, kind of help us make that decision where we feel the community needs to go. I mean, we'll have to make some hard decisions as a board and as a school, because you may see that we have 43 students that are interested in taking CNA classes, but we only have 4 interested in, I'm just spitballing here, welding.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have to make decisions on what we keep, then what do we keep? Now, we may see 15 items that are evidence of, well, this clearly is something we want, that our kids want. This clearly is something that the bulk of our kids aren't interested in. And maybe that changes 3 years from now. Because the truth of the matter is, I've said this, we're a small, big school, or a big, small school, however you want to shake that out. And we just can't offer everything. We can try, but with our resources and the way with our limited resources, it's hard to do that. Now you go from 940 kids to 1,020. Now you've got some money in your general fund to be able to add some of those things back. But I think that's what that when it comes to academics, it's evaluating that process. We can run surveys for our junior high kids to see what additional electives they would like. We can run surveys for our high school kids to say, hey, what career and technical areas are you guys interested in? And that's good information for you guys, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that's kind of the direction we should go to start with, and in the meantime, we can evaluate, which we had planned to do anyway, how is this year going with our going from 2 band directors to 1? What does the art program look like with, from 3 teachers to 2 or 2 to 1? And, which we kind of do all the time when it comes to schedule and adding pieces. But
What's a realistic timeline for a course evaluation program?
I think May.
Okay.
May. I mean, because we do a lot of that anyway. Like at the high school level, they are going to put some of those surveys and questionnaires out there anyway. Like, what classes are you interested in? So some of that we do at middle of the semester anyway, so that we can start designing classes for them to register for the next year. Surveys we can build and get out anytime.
Is there a way to, I don't even know, so like, there are a lot of classes that the kids are interested in, they're just not able to take them because of scheduling. So if they're in choir or band, it's very hard for them to get any of the other electives just because of how the scheduling fits. Is there a way to somehow incorporate that information into that evaluation?
Sure.
Just because it's like, it's great if they're interested in all these classes, but they're never going to be able to take them.
Yeah, I mean, the answer to that is staff, because you have to have more bodies to teach those classes.
Well,
times.
but even with the staff, you can only take so many classes during the day.
Yeah.
And you have the ones that you're required, and if you're a band or choir student, that tends to take precedence over all the other ones.
This is gonna sound harsh, but that comes down to just, that's your choice. I mean,
Right.
you all have choices to make, and
No, I get that. I just mean, like, when we have those surveys and they're like, I'm interested in this class, but the reality is that they're never gonna be able to take them.
because
It's low on their priority,
Yeah.
because they're band or choir, they're taking dual credit
we
AP.
can-
You know what I mean? So that it gives us a higher level of,
we
you
can
know,
figure out a way to work.
they're interested in welding, but they're never gonna be able to take it,
Yeah,
is what I'm trying to, the point I'm trying
we
to.
can figure out a way to do that. I think it's almost like that's the theme kind of going tonight, but it just allows us to evaluate, where we want to go, I mean, I'll just give you a quick example of what I mean by this. And I don't expect you guys to know a lot of these things. We're here every single day.
Mhm.
But I think what came up in that meeting the other day was a comment about, well, let's do XYZ technology, because I'm sure our kids will do this and they'll develop this and they'll do that. We have media class. We can't get them to work again because they do not want to give up that time to go work there. When it comes to putting those pretty things together on the video board, he does it. because we can't get kids to do it. So sometimes kids aren't near as interested in what their parents think they should be interested in. So I think that gathering that information would be valuable for you all when it comes to where are we going to put our resources into those teachers that are teaching the classes that our kids really want to take.
So a couple comments on what you just said. Just an overall caution. We gotta, as a board, we gotta just be a little cautious that we don't get too deep in the woods here and kind of stay in our lane. Big picture. And then the second thing is so we asked all these questions in the original survey. And the short answer of what came back was CTE. So if we're gonna try to garner new data, might I suggest that we do it, approach it in the way you sort of just described, in the sense that present the students with either or choices. Because the time in the day isn't gonna change. We're not gonna add another class period. So if we do add stuff to the curriculum, there's gonna be more give and take, not less. So perhaps we could approach a new survey in that light, if that makes sense. If you want to do CT, what is it? Okay, that's what you want to do. Welding. You want to do welding. Are you willing to give up band to do welding?
Right.
Because you might have to. And then if the answer comes back universally no, then we know that they didn't really want to do welding. They just thought it was a cool idea.
Yeah, and I think we could do a better job of also educating our students on what CTE is. And there's 16 career and technical clusters.
Sure.
There's things out there that are career and technical education that they don't even know is a thing. So we could kind of educate in that regard too. But I'm just trying to think of ways that I can get information in your hands as a board that's not here every single day. You're not working here every day. That gives you information to be able to make some of these informed decisions. Because some of them are hard. I mean, you know, just because we only have 3 doesn't mean those things are important to those 3. So those are hard, difficult choices to make, but we do have a finite amount of resources and we want to make sure we're maximizing that for, you know, the kids.
So then, I think the May timeline seems realistic to just gather data from your perspective, if that's doable for you. And then as far as like the engaging local businesses to participate in CTE programming, is that something that would be easier to implement sooner?
Yeah.
So
we're
those
doing-
are kind of the 2 things we can just focus on right now,
Yeah, we're doing that right now.
and then we'll,
Mr. Denning and I are meeting on Wednesday mornings to just talk CTE in general. He's got some good things cooking with being able to possibly add a CNA course next year. We're evaluating our CTE courses, just like we kind of mentioned. We do have a we're working with Matt Larson to put a career fair together for December 19th to get those businesses involved, as many that want to get involved. So yeah, I think we're rolling on that right now. Mr. Denny and Mr. Rusink are working to compile some information for me when it comes to what are we doing as far as apprenticeships or shadowing experiences. So we have kids going on job shadows, like we have students in Educators Rising that are going to, you know, hopefully want to be a teacher someday or going to learn about what it's like to be a teacher. We have people going to job shadow at hospitals. We have people, like we have those things going. We just need to give you guys that information. So we're working on compiling that too, which I think goes right along with, you know, engaging local businesses and what we're doing. So yeah, I think the timeline on that is like, yeah, I mean, we should get pretty good feedback in January for that.
Okay. So first goal for academics would be, how do we word this? Basically the survey of the student body, about course offerings and options. If you had to choose, where would you go? So that's first option, or first action item. The second action item is how would you want to word that, Dr. DeBoer, for what you're doing with the CTE/local business participation?
Well, I think we're kind of, I mean, you tell me, but it looks like we're somewhere in the realm of 1, 2, and 4. 1 is review our course offerings, and we wouldn't have to necessarily test the budget, but we could review our course offerings and tell you what we're offering now and what those numbers look like.
Okay.
2 is basically surveying our students, looking at what classes would you like to see, and we could add the, here's what the 16 career clusters are, and maybe something on there as far as like how to prioritize. If you took this review, like where would you rank? We can kind of figure that out. And then 4 would be your CTE one. Is that what you get? I mean, that's what I see. That's about what I think we talked about.
Mm-hmm. Does anybody disagree with that? Are we comfortable with those? Would be 1, 2, and 4.
I sort of feel like 6 is tied into it a little bit too.
I think so too.
Yeah, I think there's 9 bullet points in that goal area, and I think 4 or 5 of them are CTE related, so.
Okay.
By having a CTA goal, we're really knocking half the list out.
Okay. All right, we have 2 more sections. The next one would be professional development and personnel. I personally would want to hear from the administrators on what you guys want for this one, because again, I don't live this every day, you do. So I'm curious, based on the feedback we've heard both in discussions here and in discussions with our public hearings, what do you feel would be 2 strong goals for this area? Or 3 if needed.
For professional development, it really comes down to how many dollars we want to commit to it. For the last 2 years, we've really, our big group PD outside of, we have some trainings here or there, the individual buildings need to do some of their own thing, but ours is pretty much solely went around looking at data, assessing our students with our map tests. How do we use that information to enhance our instruction for our students? That's really what we've been kind of going around, and I'd like to stay with that theme, but also add kind of a cultural piece. We're meeting with the group called Humanity Launch. Essentially, they come in and work with your students on leadership and just building team and unity within your school district. Teaches your older students then to how to teach that to your middle school students, and teaches them to go. There's leadership camps they offer in the summertime. There's some leadership clinics they offer a couple days before. So that's another thing that we could interweave into that. So it really comes down to some dollars. We would obviously want to get some feedback from our teachers on what are some things that you guys would like to see. It has been what I've asked my advisory groups this last month. Give me some feedback on the PP that you guys would like to see, but we feel like we have a pretty good focus that we'd like to keep adding on to. Again, each building has a little bit of things that they need to add here, science of reading, in elementary, and they have some afternoons that they high school brought in AI, but it's still kind of based on assessment, looking at data, and instruction. We brought explicit instruction in. So we feel like we have a pretty good plan on where we want to go to PD. It comes down to dollars, and then try and convince them to come here for a couple more days, but then that comes down to pay, right? Because we really are short a couple days. It'd be nice to have a couple more days, but I don't,
Well,
That's
and
a
then,
tougher thing to-
and we could give up contact time,
Could, yeah.
but that's, then you're taking away instructional time
Yeah.
for PD,
And that could be a discussion on where do we value that? Is it worth,
right?
like, we're way above where we need to be state minimum wise.
Right.
Is it worth to say, hey, let's sacrifice 8 hours of contact to give our teachers 8 hours more training? It's negotiated, of course.
From our level though, the piece of information we would need from you is some sort of comparative analysis of dollars then. You know, if you wanna give your staff 2 extra
This
days,
is what this would cost.
that's, this is what it's gonna cost.
Is there any cost to bring in that, culture, this education?
There is, but we're in the works of getting that, I think, paid for.
Okay.
And it's not, and it's expensive. It's $2,500 a day or something.
Do we have like a current budget for
Not really.
personal
I
development?
mean, we do, but
In each building, there's a professional development budget line. But a lot of times it's spent on, individualized or the group sessions that we can do on PD days already.
So would it be a
$2,500
value,
would be on the high end of those lines.
would it be a value to try to come up with kind of like a proposed budget to bring into the budget meeting so that, so we can kind of plan and that way you have like dollars to work with. If we haven't had a budget for it in the past, it's hard to know what we're looking at in the future. So it'd be kind of nice to have some numbers to look at and plan ahead kind of thing. I feel like that would, again, fall in line with all of our analysis, but we don't know what we're gonna be able to do and all of that if we don't have some numbers to look at.
Just looking at this, I do see a great value in offering some type of financial incentives to our teachers to develop their degrees into advanced degrees, whether it's masters or wherever they go. I don't know what that looks like. Maybe that's the goal is let's evaluate. Maybe the goal is just as the board evaluating how we want that incentive program to look. I do see value in that. That's a good one.
We already have that though, right?
We do to an extent. I mean, they get a bump. I'm talking like, would we pay for X amount? I think they get reimbursed for $300.
Yeah.
Is that something you would want to look at? Again, I'm just spitballing. I'm not saying do any of it. I think that's something that, the direction.
So we pay for that on top of the lane change? Then
They get the lane change after they completed their degree, but maybe the incentive would be, we'd reimburse you $1,000 instead of 300 or whatever, whatever, the sky's the limit.
for a course, but then we'd also
They would get the lane.
get a lane change, yeah, so then we'd be paying for it and then paying for it.
It's all fixed dollars.
That particular route is used as a retention tool in a lot of organizations. So for every X thousands of dollars you pay up front, they commit to time on the back end in addition to the money change. Just out of my notes, to dovetail off of everything Dr. DeBoer said, and I think a lot of this came out of the internal focus group that involved the staff. But just to reinforce what you just said, have teacher collaboration time, incentivize staff for both either hard to fill jobs. Physics was the example in that document. And then also enhancements, which we just talked about. And then the fourth thing that was talked about in the internal focus group that kind of fits into that same category, in my opinion, is a mentoring program, which again, really, all these things are trading time for money. So I guess if we're asking for an analysis from you, including prioritizations, and then we would have to review that for trade-off or whatever.
Mhm.
And I don't know what, and maybe some analysis of best practices in other organizations that you know, other superintendents you talk with, what do they do for front-end incentivization?
I can do any or all. You tell me what you want me to do. We'll,
So, I mean, I guess what I'm hearing is number one would be the evaluation of the, from the administration's perspective, an evaluation of, it's kind of twofold. One, where you're taking either contact time away from the students to do an additional day of teacher development and or bringing in what that cost structure would look like to bring in that extra
Yeah.
professional development around culture. So that's one item. And then the second item I'm hearing, which I think is valuable, at least it would give us an idea of what we would be coming into these next couple of years, would be an evaluation of the professional development scholarship for our teachers and what other options might be out there. So we could look at that, discuss it. Now, if you're aware, I mean, we don't know what's gonna happen these next couple of budget years, but at least we would know where that stands and we can make a decision off of it. And if we decide not to do it later, then we do other stuff. But I think for professional development, those would be the two goals that I'm hearing and I would support listing. Is the board in agreement with those two items?
so I see, like, I think we've kind of talked about a combination of 2, 3, 5, and 7. And 2 and 7 could be somewhat combined as far as like an analysis of what the cost would be and where we want to go. And 3 and 5 are kind of similar.
I think, I mean, if the rest of the group is willing to do this, I think we should just narrow this down to one goal for Dr. DeBoer for this category at this time, and that would be an analysis of dollars, essentially, of all the things that we just talked about, for discussion as part of budgeting
I get what you're saying.
for the next fiscal year.
I'm fine with that.
That would be my suggestion for the thing to do. And then, once we know the dollars, we can have all these other conversations on where those dollars and time fit into the
I agree with that.
big pie.
I do that.
So what time frame do you want to kind of do it about this?
I say budget time, like
Okay.
March. Have it ready by March budget time.
Okay. Everybody in agreement to that?
Yep.
Matt, Karen? Okay. All right, last area we want to discuss would be then, public relations. This one I'm gonna kind of throw a curveball at the board. When we all first started, I know there was a bunch of us that attended a bunch of different things. I know, not Karen, Angie and I attended the FFA banquet. I know we have that, event coming up, the career fair on December 19th. I think there's things like that from a public relations standpoint, I think, not only the school, but I think the board could do a better job of, even if it's only for a partial time, showing up at some of those events and being present. Maybe talking to some of the people getting feedback there too. I know the December 19th career fair, that's one that I would love to come be at. And as much as that's not necessarily, like, it's not social media, it's not a news article, it's not this. From a public relations standpoint, I think that staff, students seeing individuals occasionally at those types of events would be beneficial. I know between the arts and the sports and all those other things, we cover quite a bit, but I do think there's some of those little areas like this where I think if a goal of the board, I would actually like to put this one back on us and say, maybe we need to be out there a little bit more and finding our own facts, being at locations like this. So like, instead of getting a report saying, hey guys, how did the career fair go? I can say, you know what, I was there. I saw this many kids interacting. I saw this. This is what actually happened. So obviously for discussion, but that's one thing I'd like to throw out there for public relations.
Yeah, I mean, I think we probably get a pretty good spread. One area I think we probably need to focus on is elementary.
Mhm.
You know, I had the last girl standing and she now goes into this building every day and not the other building, so none of us are organically participating in the elementary at this point. To that end, kind of dovetailing, one of the notes I have is maybe to help facilitate that. I mean, I know we have Mrs. Merkel here at the meetings, but if we wanted to invite a representative of the PTO, kind of an ex officio mode for these meetings, maybe that's a way to bridge that gap a little bit too on a month-to-month basis. So that's not a goal thing necessarily, it was just in my notes.
Something, yeah.
So my goal, and this is in various processes, is I firmly believe in this idea of a one-stop app as the first team community project. I think it's useful for all the different organizations, and I think it's a good little win to segue into bigger conversations about cooperation in the community for potentially bigger projects. So for public relations, that's my piece.
What capacity is there with the current app? There is one out there, right?
It's all right.
Yeah.
What was the question, sorry?
He's talking about having all encompassing one-stop shop. So we have the school website and we have the app. Do they cross-reference completely? What does that look like?
Yeah, our app pulls directly from our website.
Okay.
We did fill out a grant. I haven't heard back from my grant, by the way.
It should be, they should be telling us soon. The other one just came out, so
But regardless, I know Matt Larson is working on one that basically links all of the community's stuff to one place. Because I think that's similar to what you're doing.
yeah, basically, I think that we would benefit in this day and age from having an app where you can go and you can pay your city bill, you can refill your kids' lunch, you can buy tickets to the game all in one place. In addition to the event listings and the pushes and all the communication aspect of it. And in talking with Matt on the business side, not on the school side, this is something that he wants to own. So this is our direction from my point of view is to, I guess, let's make that happen on our end, but I don't want to own the app as the school. I would like to see the development corporation own the app and facilitate that community gathering point for us from an administrative point. Ours is doing what we got to do to make it work. Plus, I don't know if we got to pitch in a little bit of money. Everything comes down to money. But those movements have already started in that arena, in the economic development arena. So he's been working on that. So.
Is there an action piece for us in that? Because really it would just be us linking up when they're ready, right?
Well, there's a lot of work that'll probably fall on Dr. DeBoer's team to make it all.
I assume there's like some interface type stuff that they'd have to
Right.
work on doing, which is
I like,
a lot.
I like Jared's idea of being present in all these places, so I can take our calendar and I can put point totals on things and I can give you guys stars if you show up. And then the person with the least amount of points can bring like supper to the meeting or something like that, so we can make that actionable.
Has to do the meeting facing the wall.
And you check in with me, that's the point, that's the point, that's okay.
How many points for freezing football?
Yeah, that's double.
So as far as that community, the community communication, I mean, what's the meat and potatoes of that? What else, I mean, is it just the board support focus that we make sure we're doing what we can to help support it, both internally and externally, whether that's supporting you,
Yeah,
Mr. Crum, so whomever?
I think if we decide to do that, we just, the quantitative goal piece from the board's perspective is we give him the direction that, you know, we want a one-stop app. And if we need to take a little bit of time in the future to define all the things that we want to do, that's okay. But I think, I mean, I'm getting some head nods, maybe I'm alone on this, but I think that would be a very valuable first community building step to create because right now, I mean, we got 7 lines of communication in our organization alone. The city has 3.
Yeah.
I'm sure St. Mary's has several. I mean, we're talking about more than a dozen lines of communication in our community and multiple and efficient overlaps, right? If we can put some effort and resources towards both the teamwork aspect and the communications efficiency aspect of that, I think that would be great.
Yeah. I think as far as like board actionable steps, I do like your idea though of being more present. I don't know how you measure that. And maybe that doesn't need to be measured, it can just be something that you guys are, as a board, challenging each other to do. I think when it comes to the board side of PR, so much of this is gonna fall on, we just need to do a little better job of getting this stuff out and you know, we've updated our website now, we're looking at that almost weekly, trying to edit some of those changes. Mr. Cummins, the entire year from my office. The app is out there, we'll push another, you know, we'll let people know that that's out there too. I think from the board perspective, it's more like, again, it comes down to, hey, do we need to evaluate whether we need a PR media person? Do we need to take a look at being a little more active in recruiting somebody to help build a middle school, high school PTO because we don't have one? I think that's more where the board comes in as far as actionable steps. No, I don't expect you guys to post things on Facebook for us. Like, that's not gonna be, it's just a little more difficult for you guys in that regard. Again, unfortunately, so many things come down to just where are we gonna put our dollars and our focus on, you know, how do we wanna get there? But
So to address the participation piece first, I would be willing if, I mean, it's gonna add some time to the agenda, but if we wanted to do a calendar review as part of the superintendent report at the end of every meeting, not including sports events, things that
what's going
aren't
on? Yeah.
necessarily on everybody's horizon all the time. We could just do a kind of non-committal roundtable on, so some of us are going to be at some of those events just because we have kids in them or whatever. And if we find out there's a glaring event that needs some attention,
And maybe that's it.
then we can volunteer.
Maybe that's part of
or
that.
whatever.
Actionable, you add a calendar event or a calendar action item on our.
So that's
Our
something
agenda
that's,
is to say,
that's something that's
let's-
immediately actionable.
So I like that. So Katie, I like that a lot. So if the first goal will be to have board, attend, oh my gosh, I can't talk. Board actively attending events, could that be a part of your report moving forward, that's just a standard learning opportunities? We'll try to make sure that somebody is trying to cover it, and trying to work
Yeah.
for one another to do so. So that's one. And then the 2, it's around communication. So is it more about trying to focus on finding somebody that can do that for the school? Is it trying to be supportive of the mechanism that's currently being evolving in the city currently, and maybe having Matt come and present to us updates? I don't know.
So number 2, could we just explore this community citywide app
Yes.
adventure.
And commit some dollars to it, even out of the discretionary part of the budget right now, if need be. Mr. Crum, the current app is awesome. I'm gonna say awesomer than the last app. So great job on bringing that together as a part of the thing. In addition to the things that other highlighted, I just don't think that we're the right organization to push it, because it will just seem like we're getting in St. Mary's business when it comes to this piece, right? So it's better to have an outside organization pull from both of us and consolidate it in one place. But if you don't, as a board, feel that that's a value, and I think of it also, again, beyond meeting the public relations piece of the goal area, it's a stepping stone towards whether it's facilities improvement or, you know, we talked about the all day Dell Rapids mantra type thing during the last focus group, so.
Okay.
Just curious too, and I mean, because that's gonna take time before it's kind of up and running and everything like that. So like, when we talk about public relations and getting our story out there, is there anything in particular that you guys feel like as administration that would be of most value in the mechanism by which we get ourselves out there the easiest that would cost, you know what I mean? Like right now, an area of focus, like if you could pick, because there's so many ideas that have been thrown into all of this of different things that we could use to get our story out there. Like if you could pick one thing that we can focus on, is there one avenue that you feel like this is the most impactful that we should be trying to?
From you guys as the board, or just what our school is doing in general?
From what the school is doing in general.
What I think we're in the middle of trying to accomplish is, right now, is through this Drillshare app, we have the ability for every individual every teacher, everybody in our school to be able to take photos or get messages out and send them to the building principal. Through the app, it goes to the principal. The principal can approve or disapprove if it's gonna go out to the public. We just haven't found. We've been practicing that through our admin team, like I've been doing that through Mr. Crum, and he's been okay just to make sure it works. We just haven't found an opening to get that to our teachers yet. But I feel like that one thing right there will help us a bunch, because it shows what we're doing in kindergarten, and it shows what we're doing in seventh grade, and it shows what we're doing, not just on the football field or even at the music concert. It's all those little tiny things we're doing, like when Mr. Schulte brought his World War II stuff in. All those little things that we're doing that are really cool, that just people just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And we have that digital media to do that now. Once upon a time, it was newsletters, you know, or whatever, but that went to your classroom. So I feel like we have a mechanism to do it. We just need to find an opening to let our teachers know this is how it's done. And we'll get there.
So like if you pull up in the app today, there's a highlight of one of the students' colored pencil artwork. Was that ported through the
I don't know.
share program?
Anybody know what that looks like? A portrait, a color pencil portrait of a student?
It was just one of the things that, I think
That was, you put that out there? Yeah.
through what you were just talking about, or
Well, did you put that on the live feed? I put it on live feed, yeah. So,
through it? Okay,
yes,
so that's
same
easy.
thing, but he has access, so what would happen is, he could have a teacher in the middle of third period, take a picture of something cool to do and send it to him.
I think I put it on Facebook and Drillshare and Instagram.
Yeah, and he'd be able to okay it or not. Say there's a foster student that can't be out there, and that teacher didn't know. He'd be able to say, yeah, I can't send that out. So instead of it just going directly to, and it goes through our stuff. So the teacher would take that photo or write that comment or whatever. It would go through our Drillshare which then would go to all of the school districts, Instagram, Facebook, whatever we have social media, and our website.
Do you have a timeline for when you would have to roll that out?
It's just a matter of finding time. It seems like a simple thing, but nothing's simple when you're trying to get that information out to 75 people. I think we'll talk about that. I think my principal's kind of talking through that, but we've got some other irons in the fire right now that we're trying to get going, and just don't want to add more stuff. I don't think it's difficult. It won't be that difficult, but.
I have to say, I saw that and it was awesome. Like, I loved it. Just stuff that I don't normally see, and just all of a sudden that popped up.
That's popped up multiple times too, so.
Yeah, it's great.
And I think just the way, just the what we live in right now, I'm not a social media user, but I know most people are. And I think that's just that medium that you can get it out there pretty quick, and people are, you know, they like to comment on it, or like to see that, and it's just a way to get stuff we're doing. Print media just doesn't seem to be, you know, it's harder and harder nowadays. So getting that stuff out there, I think is important, just to start with. Now, there are companies out there that you can work with to develop commercials, to develop videos. I would love to go and, we as an administrative group has hired a firm, not me, but like SASD, we have a public education firm, so they're out there, they would love to get videos from us interviewing the mayor or business owners that are just talking about public ed. So there's a lot of things that we can do.
I like it.
But just the time commitment and where we want to go. But I think those two goals I think we can move forward.
Okay. All right, so kind of work through the 4 areas on the backside of our strategic plan and some goals and some timelines. I think relative to the time that we have this evening yet into the timeline of continuing discussion on the strategic plan, I guess I don't know if I need a motion, but I would recommend that we continue our mission and vision at the next meeting in December, and that will continue because we have policies to review, and then we also have an executive session scheduled yet tonight.
So I will type up everything we talked about tonight, put that in a similar document to this, just to show kind of what we have, and we can revisit that in December.
Yeah.
You guys okay with that? With timeline? And- Okay. No problem.
All right, so thank you for the discussion on strategic planning under 9A. The next item under new business is the second reading of policies that are outlined on your sheet. I will not restate them, but I'm sorry, refresh me, Dr. DeBoer, second reading, do we need a motion to approve at this point, or we're still just second reading?
We do, yeah. When it's all said and done, we need a motion to approve those.
Good.
I had no questions or modifications to any of these policies, so I'm making a motion to approve them. Just do all of them, right, at once?
You can, yeah. And you can have a second and then discussion after that if you want.
I'll second it.
Yeah.
And then we can have discussion.
My stuff is mostly copy editing stuff. I sent you a list of copy edit
Yep,
changes.
got it. No
So I
problem.
don't think I need to read through all those. Couple of broad things as going forward. I've noticed as these have hit the desk a few times is that I would say about 60% of our policies open with a purpose statement or an intent statement. And 40% of them don't. Of those 40%, some have an intent statement that comes then later in the body. I just think for uniformity purposes going forward, maybe we should look at. Because I think that's the correct way to do it, is have a purpose or intent. Most of them state that. The board's intent is, or the purpose of this policy is, and then it delineates.
When you're reviewing that, is that the ones that we currently have or with the ASBSD that we're?
I'm just talking about ones that
changing?
have come to us as a board. So I think the vast majority of them, you've just
Well, a lot of
align the
them,
language.
yeah, a lot of them are like what we currently have, and then we're kind of changing to the ASBSD format. So that's why I'm wondering if it's in the ASBSD format that has it in there.
It's just something that, it's a copy editing format thing, but it's just something that I noticed. It's just a uniform thing. Under the EEAD, under the buses one, we got a lot of different language going on. I would recommend that we change the title to transportation equipment by outside groups. Special use of transportation equipment by outside groups, and then change the word buses wherever it appears to transportation equipment so that the language is uniform throughout. There are places where we say transportation equipment. There are places where we say buses. And then on top of all of that, we don't actually own the buses anymore, so don't know the relevance piece. Moving on, again, this is just a formatting thing, and it pertains to several of these, but sometimes we list legal references in a byline at the end of the document, and sometimes we don't. There were several policies in this batch that have legal references. If those are requirements, we should add them. Do we need to add under EBC the annual review? Should we have an annual review deadline included for the emergency plan? In the policy, since we have one that's part of the timeline process for the handbook and everything, of which the emergency plan is a part, I guess. The way I'm saying that makes sense?
If the policy is reviewed every year before the school starts,
That's what I'm saying. That's not explicit in the
the
document.
handbook, but if the handbook is reviewed every year before school starts, that should then supersede the fact that everything in it should have been reviewed, correct? Is that what you're asking, or are you asking for a
Yes.
specific one to be done, because it's more of like a,
Well, since we have a separate policy for it, I'm just wondering if it needs to be included in that or not.
the only thing, I saw that response, and I guess the only thing I would say is because emergencies and disasters kind of falls under the security, I would only recommend dating it to elevate it because of that. Otherwise, normal policy, we're gonna review every summer before the school year starts anyway. But to elevate this one just slightly because of that, I would be okay adding a specific time frame that we're reviewing that stuff, so. But that's.
So,
semantics too, so.
just put in the policy that the crisis management plan will be reviewed annually and prior to September,
I would say in July,
in July.
in preparation for adoption with the handbook in August,
Okay,
right? Because I know we don't publish the emergency plan, but it is technically part of the handbook, right?
and yes, the state has requirements for bills, it's like 4 5 bills and 2 5 bills.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Sign off on that.
I didn't know if because it was a law, it had to be included in the policy or not. That's why I mentioned it. If it doesn't need to be included, it doesn't. The rest of my
Yeah,
stuff.
most of the stuff I read through is easily,
Copy editing
yeah,
stuff.
easy, no problem. I don't see a lot of, besides a couple you talked about, like bulk changes.
Okay. Is there any other discussion that needs to happen?
Well, I will say I know you aren't used to this, but the standard for this would be in the first reading. You read those. If you want to make changes, you bring them up when we read them the first time.
I'm with
So
you.
that our policy committee can go over it.
Yep.
Then when we have our second reading, we're ready for adoption. This should be basically a rubber stamp. We shouldn't be getting a page of notes the day of our board meeting about policies that we're supposed to be, I guess, having a second reading tonight.
Right.
So, I mean,
I'm with you there. I'm with you there. unless I misunderstood last time, though, we sort of put the cart before the horse on this one, right? We began the review process prior to the policy committee meeting on this batch, right? So this is sort of like reading 1.5. Is that true or no? I don't.
So reading one is for everybody. We took any feedback that we got at that time, started to review, and we brought them back with amendments here. Right, so what you're saying is there's been multiple months
Right.
where we're gonna have feedback, not the day of the meeting, is what he's trying to say, I think.
Right.
Okay.
Well, I'm just saying, especially when you're talking just language semantics, that kind of stuff. If we're talking big picture stuff, I mean, you know, that needs more discussion. But I mean, if we're just changing wording around, I mean, that can be done with an email between you and the policy committee or you and the board before the meeting ever happens. And, you know, just change the wording around. It doesn't have to be, you know, it doesn't have to take time of the board to do some of this stuff. So that's all I'm saying.
And then I'll just make sure that as we move forward with policies, I'll make sure when we're at the first reading, that I just acknowledge that more vocally as well. That, okay, here's our first reading, here's when the group is meeting, we need feedback prior to this date. So we're setting clear expectations. That can be part of both my role as president and a role on the policy committee. Okay.
Okay, but to that point though, is it not proper procedure that the committee meets prior to the first reading? Or no?
I don't think it
I
matters.
don't think you have to.
Okay.
Because most of the time we're just rubber stamping. It's just basically review,
No, I get that too.
you know, so I mean, whatever. If it's important to change the wording, then whatever, but I mean, you have the policy, the whole thing is when you have the first reading is when we get the policy, not being on the policy committee. The policy committee can get it before, but then we get it as a board that's not on the policy committee when the first reading happens. So that's basically the start of our, like, you not being on the policy committee.
I get what you're saying.
So, okay.
Okay. So we had a first by Angie, we had a second by Matt. We had discussions, or any other discussion that needs to be had. Do you need any definition of motion, Kim?
Just all I.
Okay, so all those in favor of approving the multiple policies, second reading as defined by our discussion tonight, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay. Item 10A, superintendent report.
Okay, I'm gonna keep this brief for tonight. I do just want to give you a heads up on something that I'm working on. Essentially, I'm calling it community education series. It's a way to kind of add to our PR, but also give some information to parents, community members, kids, whoever really wants to come. But I've scheduled meetings in January, one in January, one in February, one in March, one in April. Right now, we have Call to Freedom coming in January to talk about internet safety and trafficking. We have an AI for home and school in February. Currently working to schedule Emily's Hope to talk about fentanyl and some of the other things that are going on with kids in March. And the South Dakota DCI to come talk about telephone and app safety in April. Mostly geared towards parents, adults, and community members. Students are welcome to come, but basically be able to told what they're not being told from their kids. So just a series that I'm working on to be able to give back to our community so that they can come check out some of these things and know what's going on in the world. Working on that. I've got 2 scheduled, the other 2 are kind of going for it. So once I get them all nailed down, I'll get you the going list of when that is and what's going on. And you'll get stars and not have to buy a meal.
What were you calling?
I'm just calling it community education series. Trying to just educate our parents and community on what's kind of going on out there.
We get extra points for sure.
Extra bonus points, and it'll be indoors, you won't be cold.
I might still need to look at it.
Yeah, and maybe we get 5 people, maybe we get 105 people, we'll see.
Awesome. Anything else?
No, that's all I have.
Thank you for doing that. That sounds like a great series of events, and I hope that the public is able to attend. That is awesome to hear. All right, item 10B, committee reports and or other board comments.
I just want to reiterate, I thought that seeing like the artwork and stuff pop up on, I loved it. That was awesome. So hope to see more of that kind of stuff.
The only other thing I'll add is I just wanted to say again, a public thank you to all who attended our public hearing meetings that talked about strategic planning. I know we had a smaller group this last time, but it was great feedback. It was very honest feedback. So for all those that attended, it was wonderful. It was very insightful. Some of the discussion, I love that it went kind of just off the wall. So just wanted to say thank you to everybody for that publicly. All right, item 10C, next regular meeting is scheduled currently for December 8th at 7 p.m. I was brought to my attention though that is band concert evening. So
yeah, it is.
we need to adjust.
Band concert, that's, looks like 7.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be here, so you guys tell me a time. 5?
I think 5 is reasonable.
Does it work for everybody else?
What time?
5 o'clock.
Can you do 5?
I can do 5:30.
5:30?
Otherwise, I can just be late. Getting here at 5 now is a little bit of a challenge for me.
We can do whatever. We might have to front load some of the strategic planning discussion based on what you want to cover next time. If we're only doing 90 minutes, that's my,
That should be doable. So 5:30? Okay, we'll go December 8th at 5:30 p.m.
You guys get a good parking spot for
All right. The next agenda item is to move into executive session under South Dakota Codified Laws 1-25-2. First one is 1 personnel, and second is negotiations 1-25-4. So we need a motion to move into executive session.
so move into executive session, pursuant to those 2 points.
At 8:43 p.m. We have a first of Jason and a second of Karen.
what time?
8:43.
You got that, Mr.